All right, first, thanks guys, or thanks everyone for being here. Appreciate everyone coming out and making sure that we keep the public informed of what's going on at City Hall. As many of you know, we passed our balanced budget on Tuesday, this last meeting. The budget held public safety harmless while making cuts to nearly every other department as COVID has focused or forced us to cut about almost $30 million over the next 2 years. A lot of these cuts were tough to swallow. For a while, we hoped legislation in Washington, D.C. would pass that would help cities like us who are suffering from this global pandemic. But since that did not happen, we had no choice but to face the situation head on and make some of these cuts. I'm working on a fix to the problematic timing of the budget. For those who follow along, we had to pass the budget on Tuesday because 2 days later it was due. So a motion to table an item on the budget for further discussion actually would have forced us into a special meeting. It would have been almost impossible to vote no on the budget and have it fail because of the timing. I've spoken with the city manager about this, and he has assured me that the next budget we will have a week in between, so that if the budget was to fail or if we had changes we want to make to the budget, we would actually have time to do that. I've also spoken with our legal team to draft a rule that would ensure that in the future this will happen so that we can be more responsive to public comment without feeling that pressure of bumping up against that statutory date requirement at the same time when we hear the budget. So COVID-19, I want to give an update on this. The county numbers have shown that our masks are working, that we have had our numbers. We implemented our mask mandate on July 3rd, and we expected a bump because of the July 4th holiday. CDC says that it takes about 4 weeks to see results on the masking. We, during that time, have spiked up to about 14% of positive tests, which is the percentage of all tests. And we've seen a steady increase during that time of hospitalizations. This week was the first time in about 6 weeks, or at least 6 weeks, that we have actually seen a decrease in hospitalizations. And we've also seen a downward trend in our COVID positive percent numbers. We are hovering right around 10% right now. And as you might know, the White House considers a red zone to be 10% or higher as far as positive percentage of COVID tests. So if we can bring it back under 10%, then not only are we heading in the right direction, but we could be reclassified as a yellow zone. So with that, I want to thank the council members who listened to the medical community and the public health experts and took what could be a politically tough vote by actually moving forward with extending our mask ordinance for another 4 weeks. Most of us know someone who has died from COVID-19. And in fact, 2 weeks ago, we had a moment of silence for the co-owner of our Wichita Wind Surge basketball team, Lou, who sadly never got to watch a team play or a game played in the new stadium that he helped create with his vision because of this disease. So as we get back into the classrooms, as fall comes, we need now more than ever to contain and control the spread of this virus. Other places have done this simply by wearing masks, avoiding large gatherings, and staying at least 6 feet away from people. I believe that for some reason we are very fixated on the idea that we need a vaccine before we can control this. Other countries have controlled this using these measures. We just need to imply, all of us, the best practices moving forward to stopping the spread of this. And if we do so, we will get hopefully back to normal faster. So just an update on Century 2. We are finalizing a language for policy to ensure that Century 2 and the old public library, if they are to be demolished or replaced, would first need a public vote. As has been reported, there was a petition that was successful at gaining about 17,000 signatures, but the language has been challenged by our legal team here in the city who represent the city as a whole, not just the council, who believe that the language in the petition is overarching. Their concern is that some of the language might actually hinder us from being able to do window updates, or it doesn't have really the definition of what historically significant means. So does that also bleed into the unintended consequence of some of our buildings downtown that really aren't that significant, but they're old and need to be updated so that they could be vital to our economy again? Those concerns are now going to be litigated in court for the petition language. That's still moving forward. Nothing stopped that. However, in recognition of the 17,000 signatures, in recognition of the fact that it took a public vote to put Century 2 in place in the first place, I believe, and I never count votes, but I believe we have consensus on the council to create a policy from the bench that will tie a public vote to the removal or the replacement of Century 2. And we're still hammering out the fine details of that language, and that will be up for a vote next week. Next meeting is when that will come up, and we'll debate that. If that passes, then I think the intent and the spirit of the petition is fulfilled. However, it will be up to the folks who are running the petition if they would want to continue their legal battle. If their legal battle is successful, then they would also have to go to a public vote, which would cost taxpayers about $120,000 just to have a public vote. If we can avoid that and pass legislation from the bench that I guess fulfills the spirit of their intent, then I think that would be preferable. Either way, we are going to have a discussion on that on the 18th. So, okay, Sparks funding. So I have some really exciting news about Sparks, which is our economic development money that will be made available this week. These are money distributed to local businesses in the form of grants or loans by the Kansas Department of Commerce. These are CARES Act money that are able to be utilized, I guess it's described a little differently than the CARES Act money that the county has. These could be actually made a little more flexible. So this is a first come, first serve basis for the CARES Act money. And I spoke about this a little bit last week, because if you are a small business who doesn't pay, let's say, tax services, or really a firm to kind of have their eye out for these type of opportunities, you will want to start looking for this on your own fast, because it's first come, first serve, and I hear it's a lengthy application process. The portal opens today at 4 o'clock. 4 p.m. is when the portal opens or goes live, where people can apply for the Sparks money. And again, although I don't have all the details on the amounts, my understanding is it's about $10,000 to $5,000 in loans and also grants. So it's definitely something that people, particularly the small business community, is going to want to look into. We have to make sure Wichita gets their fair share. And sadly, I would love to be in a position where I could mail out to all of our local businesses here in Wichita this information. If I could have done that last week, they would all have the details in their hand right now and be prepared to do that. But I don't have a database in our city to be able to do that. And when I try to bring this up for discussion, it was actually shot down by, I think, an interest group who misunderstood what I was trying to do. So hopefully in the future, we'll be able to have a database so I could mail this stuff out to our businesses, so they will have I guess a heads up that this money's coming down. So I'm going to ask you in the media to help me get this message out, because Wichita deserves to have its fair share, and every other comparable city that has that database now has more tools to make sure their businesses get that money sooner and faster than our businesses do. And that's something I hope to fix in the future. But for now, please go to the Kansas Commerce website at 4 p.m. And look around for that portal for that money that's supposed to be helping out our economic development during this time. Speaking of economic development, we actually have some really good news with the open air ordinance has passed. I know I talked about this a couple weeks ago. We were working on it. Our staff has done an amazing job kind of weaving through the legalities of this, and are able to create a permit program where people who want to not only put their, let's say, restaurants spilling out into streets that aren't being utilized, or lanes that aren't being utilized, and also parking lots and sidewalks, but also retail stores can do the same. So this does a couple things. One, it allows for a safer environment during COVID for folks to get out there and help stimulate our local economy. We all know that COVID is spread through droplets within our saliva, and how in some enclosed areas, if you have a lot of people there, those droplets can float around. Outside, these droplets are less likely to circulate because they will drift off. And also with the weather and the temperatures outside, they evaporate. You guys know what I'm saying. They're getting totally choked up on that word. They disappear sooner. So having more options for businesses to expand outside is healthier for the community. It is better for the business, and really, it's really good timing with the sparks. If you are someone who, let's say, needs, I guess, a loan or more money to invest in, let's say, plastic furniture to go outside, you have the opportunity to sign up for a permit, which will turn these around in about a day or two. We're trying to have the really fast turnaround. It costs you nothing, by the way. These permits are free. We want to encourage everyone to use them. You can have a fast turnaround to get the permit while also securing some funds so that you can afford whatever upgrades you need to partake in this program. Really great program. I'm incredibly proud of our economic development team for getting it done. In fact, I think we got a member who's out in the hallway. We got one. We also have one here. If there's any questions jumping into the details, and we can get these questions asked. I mean, we can get them answered. And I believe after this, we're heading out to a local business to go sign someone up. Is that right, Megan? Leslie's Coffee. We're going to go sign Leslie's Coffee up. I hope she knows it. I hope she knows we're on our way to go force her to sign up for a permit. So with that, I'm sure there's questions. Like I said, we went over Century 2, Sparks, open air, budget, and COVID. So I will open up to questions.
More detail on the open air permits. You said they were permanent. That means they can be used throughout the entire year from now going forward?
Let me get one of the guys who help write the bill and the program to really jump into the weeds on these questions.
And can you state your name and title?
Sure. Mike Armour, traffic engineer for the city of Wichita.
Spell it for us, please.
Sure. Mike, and then Armour, ARMOUR.
Do you mind picking up the map?
Sure. The permit is a temporary permit, valid until August 1st, 2021. We do have a more permanent permitting process already in place called the Sidewalk Cafe permit. Those are a little bit more applicable to restaurants and bars, and there is a little bit more of a review process. So this open air ICT is definitely a more streamlined, expedited permit approval process for businesses during this COVID time that's just wanting to get a little bit more space for social distancing or get outside where potential customers would feel a little bit more comfortable.
So this open air, where you're going to add additional seating, a lot of these restaurants, is this up to them to, or will the city step in and help fund some of this?
Like the mayor said, there's no fee for it. We're not assisting with any costs of furniture. That's still on the business. So any tables or chairs, that's just up to them to procure at their own cost. If there's any liquor license costs involved as well, that's again on the business. but we are not charging any fees for the application.
So if they want to expand that out to include like a lot of the sidewalk area,
Sure.
they can do that.
There are limitations. The biggest thing is that we need to still keep in mind the safety of the traveling public. So we are requiring that a 6-foot space be reserved in front of the business that is traversable. You know, that space can't be, filled up with other items. It has to be clear and free of, any obstructions, but also the slope has to work for it too.
In the situation with restaurants, they could set up stools, benches, furniture outside. How about businesses that sell shoes, clothing? Can you give us an example?
Sure, yeah,
what-
retail, we had one early on downtown. Lucinda's is interested in that for the exact reason you just stated. So they could get through this exact same permit process, apply, and just note on there, there's a button to click, kind of the intended purpose for the permit, and they would just select for display or sale of merchandise.
I think the mayor kind of mentioned it, but we're going through this whole COVID thing right now. And whatever we can do, or you guys can do, to support these businesses to try to get through all this, is that kind of the
Yes, exactly. We realize there are social distancing requirements in place, and that does put a strain on businesses with their brick and mortar establishments on how they might be able to do that. So this just affords them a little bit more opportunity to expand into a little bit more square footage, but also to get maybe into the outdoors where people feel maybe just a little bit more comfortable being during the social distancing times.
Is there enough room on the sidewalks to have the 6-foot allowance between the business and this other space?
So each location will be different. And we do have on the website our number and an email address that you can reach out to with initial questions. You are encouraged to do that. You can also just take some initiative on trying to take a kind of a stab at it yourself and submit the application, at which point we will also reach out to the permit applicant to set up an on-site meeting to go over what would be possible. Any other questions?
Mayor, I have a question about
Thank you.
so you extended the mask ordinance to September 8th, is that correct?
I believe so, yes.
So, and that's the same time schools are getting ready to go back. How concerning are you guys? We're basically going to somewhat open up the city again. I guess, how concerned are you?
Yeah, I'm very concerned. We're in a red zone right now. I mean, this is the White House, right? And this CDC, I mean, every indicator is that, we need to get these numbers down, that this is real, and we got to make sure that we do what we can to help limit the spread. It must be very tough to be a school board member right now. People run for the school board because they love kids and they love our schools and they're elected and they have to make some really hard choices when it comes to school policy. And at the city, we have to be partners in that. And by that, I mean, like, we have to do what we can to get our numbers down as far as they can so that our kids have a chance of getting back in the classroom. So that the school board has a better chance of being able to create some type of program that's going to keep kids safer. So I'm very concerned, not just as the mayor, but also as a parent. I got 3 kids. One of them is supposed to be going into 1st grade. He lost the last semester of kindergarten, at a really great school that he loved to be at. Couldn't even say goodbye to his teacher, So I see this from a couple of lenses, and I think I'm the first mayor, at least since we changed the way we elect mayors, to have school-age kids. And so that weighs on me when I make policy. But again, the school district and the school board are making the school policy at the city level. We have to do what we can to attack this virus using the tools we have, which right now is going to be the mask ordinance. It's going to be smart policy like open air which is going to create opportunities to keep our small business community afloat. I was hoping it would also be about creating a database where we can send out unemployment information to businesses that might have to close down, whose employees might not know what options are out there because it's constantly changing. So we can send out information about Sparks money. So we can send out information about best practices, where we see an entire industry with the cosmetic industry, or not cosmetic, excuse me, the cosmetology industry, barbers and cosmetologists. At the very beginning of this, the governor's order had them shut down. And that industry did a complete analysis of the best ways to deliver a service while protecting customers, and they created certifications. They made it safe again, and now we're not seeing outbreaks from salons. They're not at all on something I worry about right now. And when it comes to bars and restaurants, let's give them some tools so they can make it safer. And this is part of that.
What does Spark stand for? And also, how much money is in that for the businesses?
I would have to go get my, look, he's walking away. I'm like, I'd have to go get my packet, but I think I got my economic development guy. Hey, Scott, you know about Sparks? I was looking up. Okay, I thought you were like, I'm not sure off the top of my head. To be honest, I have the information on my desk. My goal is to more encourage people to get out there to the portal that's supposed to be open at 4 p.m. today and to really dive in to what the opportunities are. One of the things that we've learned, myself being mayor and getting just, I guess, random communications from people, but also my small business council that I formed when COVID started, really having a strong effect on our small businesses, is we need to do a better job getting information out there and telling people what is available and what isn't. So this information is coming from the Secretary of Economic Development. That's the department. But as mayor of Wichita, it's my job to, I think, tell people to go to the website and see what's available, even if the program isn't a city program, which means that I don't have all the details on the ins and outs of it.
Do you
Scott
know, is there a certain amount that they can apply for?
So again, I think I said this last week, where I got an update from someone who was part of the meeting that created this program. From that meeting, and like I said, this is grain of salt, it was $10,000 to $5,000 is what I thought the grant/loans were. So right around that field, I believe. Could have changed since then, but they were, nothing too small, but nothing too big. I mean,
Really benefit a lot of these open air type, where, like you mentioned,
Definitely.
chairs, tables, stuff to hang your items on,
definitely. And I think my perspective when it comes to policy making is we should be doing policy on purpose, right? Where if the state's coming down with this, then the city can come in with this. And we can actually attack problems together from different angles. Just like I mentioned, schools are utilizing their policy to try to stop spread for in-classroom students, and then what can we do to also lower those numbers? It's going to be the mask ordinance, and then also what can we ask the county to do to help us lower the numbers? How can we work together on really the shared problem? And you got anything for me? You looked really confident for a second, like stood up straight, and I thought, like, all right, he must have the answer.
I can tell you what the SPARK stands for. It stands for Strengthening People and Revitalizing Kansas.
So SPARK stands for Strengthening People and Revitalizing Kansas. It's catchy. That's good.
Federal money or state money?
So it's federal money that came into the state to be distributed. It's CARES money, I believe. But it's different than a 99 large that the county has. I believe it's different than that. I think it's a different stream, or it might be actually a part of that, but the state gets to control it. There's something help me out, Scott. There's something different with the money where I think it's like 8 million carved out for this program.
So due to the size of Sedgwick County, they got a direct allocation. to
Right.
this one. The state got a separate allocation to help statewide issues. So it's both CARES fund money, but just.
Two different pots, that's what I thought. This one is this is the state money, and I think it's about 8 or 9 million that they're putting into this, or that they had. But different than the county money, which the county gets to utilize because of the county size, so that they can help us stop the spread. Other questions? I'll answer any question because this is way better than sitting at my desk taking emails. All right, if not, guys, please follow me on social media. I will be more than happy to answer questions there and also talk about anything that's happening. And Megan, are we inviting people to go out and?
We're going to head to Leslie's now. Staff is going to be signing up Sarah Leslie, so you're welcome to come film the opportunity. We can talk a little bit about the process and just do it in real time.
Sweet. Thanks, guys.